What if the way that you've been taught to manage your money is actually keeping you stuck, stressed, and disconnected from your power? Today, I sit down with Michon Covington, former corporate finance leader turned money coach for women. Her story is so inspiring, from burnout to health breakdowns, identity tied to hustle, and the courageous decision to walk away from it all. She now helps women map their money forward, ditching restrictive budgets for confidence, clarity, and peace. You'll hear how her upbringing shaped her mindset, how she managed health challenges while climbing the corporate ladder, and why she's so passionate about helping women find freedom through financial confidence. If you've ever felt like money was a source of stress for you, this conversation will shift your entire perspective. So in 30 seconds, you help women with their money how?
So I teach women to map their money forward. We're not sticking to strict budgets, things like that. We are looking forward, and that helps women have clarity and spend without guilt and spend with confidence. So I help women have that confidence. No more shying away from our money.
Oh, that's awesome. So now you're a coach, you help women manage money, but growing up, what did you think you wanted to do?
Forever. So I worked in a dentist office when I was a teenager, and I loved it. So I had all my prerequisites done to be a dental hygienist. And then I married into an accounting family. My brother-in-law and my two sister-in-laws are both accountants. So they pulled me to the dark side, I'll say. Oh. And so I always thought I wanted to do dental hygiene. I loved that. I cleaned kids' teeth. It was so much fun. I love people. I loved connecting with them, but just didn't turn out to be for me.
Now you shifted gears. What did you shift into?
Into accounting.
I'm sorry. So as an accountant, going from college, what were your first jobs?
Okay, so I got my undergrad degree, and then I went right into an accelerated master's. So I did an MBA because I always knew I wanted to be in the numbers. I'm a geek. I love that. But I also love strategy, and I wanted to manage, and I wanted to lead. And so while I was finishing my master's, I worked in construction and real estate accounting, which was so much fun. Got to wear a million different hats and meet all these wonderful people. And then following that, I was a management accountant at an international company. I managed a team on both sides of the pond. Our corporate was in the UK, and that was so much fun. So did a lot of learning there. But yeah, those were my first jobs following graduating.
So you've always loved money, though. You've always loved managing money or helping companies manage their money better?
Yes, both, really. So I've always really enjoyed, my mom was really good with personal finance, and I kind of got that itch from her. And so I've always really enjoyed helping women with money. So I just quietly on the side was always helping women with money because I've always been able to make ours stretch further than most people because of the way I handled it. And then, of course, yes, I'm passionate about helping companies with money too. I always say the smartest person in the room is the one that can explain everything, because I'm not all about these, reports that no one can act on. I love giving a true story and a strategy based on the numbers. I'm there to read the numbers, and they're there to act on the recommendations. So I'm really passionate about
Going back to your mom, what things did she teach you or share with you or just model for you that taught you all of that?
Well, so growing up, my dad was he was a coach and an educator. So money, we didn't have a ton of money. He worked a lot. He was incredible. My mom managed from home. She was a piano teacher, and I have 3 other siblings. So we had enough, but not an overwhelming amount. And my mom was always very, very frugal, and would take the time to explain to me why. It wasn't just like, we're not going to buy this or we're not, whatever. It was, here's why. And so she always told me the reason. And that's something that I'm really big on, because I think people are rational and have good intentions. And if people understand the why, the why behind the action, they can act the right way. And that's what she did for me. I also watched her, there was some fighting over money, and there were late nights and tears and things like that. And I watched her just absolutely be a rock with that. And so I thought, I just want to expand on what she's taught me.
What were some of the things that she said were the why? Because I think it's really important to understand that things that we say to our children around the things that they want to purchase, like when they want to purchase things, if we say, we don't have enough money for that, you can create this money mindset scarcity in our children. Whereas one of the things that I do with my kids is, how can you get creative to earn the money for that instead of just buying it for them? How can we get creative to figure out a way that you can earn some money to pay for that? But what were some of the things that she said that was the reason that made it click for you?
So for her, she would say things like, I'm choosing not to afford that. That's not part of the plan. We could have it, but if we do, then there's this. So she taught me a lot about trade-offs. And isn't that life? I mean, everything is trade-offs. You can have this now, but you know that later it's going to cost you or whatever. And so she was really good about explaining the trade-off and why she was acting that way. Why, we go to the store, I want to get a bunch of candy. And she's like, well, okay, but is this really going to bring you joy? Is it maybe for 5 minutes, but is this really your goal? And as a kid spending money on candy with very little money, that money on candy was kind of wasted. And so she would be really careful about what I was buying and help me understand the trade-offs. And so as I got older, she was really good with that. And then in addition, my dad was just incredible at teaching me how to make money. We spent hours and hours sitting down with my resume and teaching me how to go apply for jobs, how to interview for jobs, why we work hard, and all of those kinds of things. So I had it from both sides, an incredible money manager, and then someone that was really good with people and good at helping me learn to work.
So I want to go back to something that with the kid in the candy store that wants the candy. One of the other things that for me, this is kind of along the same lines as money. Like when you're in the grocery store and they want all the things, we can't afford that, creates a negative pattern. But my choice is, we don't need that. Our bodies don't need that. We don't need that. So when I'm saying no to some of those things, it's not just the money reason. It's that our bodies don't need that. There is no nutritional value in that. We don't need to have that. And not that we don't have anything, but as much as they would like. But your dad, I mean, my kids would like to have all the things. Was he entrepreneurial?
Not really. No, like I said, like he was a basketball coach growing up and then was a teacher. He knew a lot about hard work. Being a coach, I watched him, really teach his players. I mean, he just loved his players and he just taught them, you really got to grind. And we can talk about that later, but that tended actually to end up having a negative effect, even though it was incredible at the time, but I like took it over. Yeah. I was like, hustle, 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 hustle. And so he just taught me a lot about working hard and going and getting what you want. He coached all my brothers. I have 3 younger brothers, and he coached them and taught them how to go get, the positions they wanted in high school, those kinds of things. And it was just, and after it was how do we get jobs, those and all those things. And he just really taught us a lot about that. And it was such an incredible gift that I'm trying to pass on to my kids, but we've got to have some boundaries between that hustle culture. Yeah. There's working hard and then overdoing it and not listening to your body, which is where
you did that. So you went way too far, pushed yourself way too hard. For how many years do you feel that you overextended yourself in your job?
Probably about a
decade. And do you feel that was rooted in an identity that was connected to something that you felt your worth came from how hard you worked?
Yes. And I'm still decoupling it. I mean, if we're honest, it's still a struggle every single day to decouple those two things. I find when I slow down, I get anxious. But then I'm I'm doing the work of, okay, we've got to slow down. And my worth is, I have worth whether I'm hustling or not, whether I'm producing or not. But being a woman in corporate spaces, being a leader in a company, I was VP of finance and HR, and me and 2 other gentlemen ran that company on the day-to-day. And being a woman in those spaces, I felt like I had to hustle even harder, prove even more. So,
And that's an interesting thing, because how much of that is because they expected that, or that's just in our heads as women?
I think it's a mix. Because even still, I'll get on with clients. I do fractional CFO services, which I really enjoy as well. I'll get on with clients and there still are comments made. Oh, well, I know you have kids. Are you going to make time for this? Or, things like that. And so it is a little bit of a mix of people understanding that there's a balance and that my worth isn't tied to just producing.
So what were some of the consequences of you in your job before overextending yourself, overworking yourself? Like, what was showing up in your life?
Oh, well, I lost myself. Um, and I ended up having a lot of health problems. So the real big issue was that my ears started to pulse. And people will say, "Was that ringing?" And I'm like, "No, it's pulsing." Literally, I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I couldn't lay down at night. If I laid down, my ears would pulse. And so it would jerk me awake. And I would be up several times a night. And me, NyQuil, Xanax, whatever I could get my hands on my countertop in the middle of the night, that's what I was taking to try to just please get a couple hours of sleep. So it was a couple hours at a time. Um, and so that started happening in 2015 after my second baby, and then kind of went away for a minute and really reared its head right after COVID, right in there. It wasn't COVID related, but I feel like we kind of like live and die with the COVID plane. Like, oh, it was
What is it? If it was pre-COVID, what is the AD or pre-COVID and post-COVID life? They're just very different.
definitely. So yeah, it was the pulsing, and I didn't know what it was, and then my body just blew up huge. And I've gone back and forth about this just a little bit because I thought that was a weight problem, and we can dive into that if you want.
Was it inflammation?
It was actually a gut problem.
Now, when you say it was a weight problem or it was a gut problem, was it showing up as inflammation, or was it actual weight gain because of imbalances?
It was both. I mean, I was super inflamed, incredibly inflamed. When I look back at those pictures, my whole face is just blown up, and I just want to give that girl a hug. Because while she's all blown up and she's pushing so hard and holding so much, I had my body on 1,200 calories. I was lifting heavy. I was working with a weight loss coach because I was like, well, losing weight will fix it. Because I had dealt with so many eating disorders and struggled. That was my crutch. And so I was convinced that would fix it. But I started working with a different coach who fed me up, and I was scared to death. But as he fed me and made me eat, I was there eating about 2,300 calories. My body started to calm down because it started to feel.
Oh, I think so many women are absolutely under eating and don't realize that they're wreaking havoc on their metabolism. You can't starve yourself and have your metabolism not be affected. But it is a challenge as women there's a lot of pressure to feel like we have to look a certain way. So how long was it though? You weren't making the connection that my unhappiness in my job, and not just unhappiness, but because you probably didn't even feel like you were unhappy, I'm guessing.
No, I loved it. I loved it. It was my dream job. And still, those people are my family. I love them. I actually just talked to some of them yesterday. Loved it. And it broke my heart to leave. But I knew that my body needed some space and time to heal because I needed to, like I said, I'm still doing that work of decoupling my worth from productivity. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't going to let that go while I was in that type of a role. Mm-hmm. And my body wasn't healing. So I was still in this really stressful environment. And part of it was just my own, I was putting pressure on myself to produce, but also it was a high pace, multi-million-dollar company. We had a big staff. And so there was a lot riding on my shoulders. And so it was trying to find that balance. I was so happy in my job. I was just mad at my body going, come on, body, I'm feeding you 1,200 calories, catch up. It's time to lose some weight. But it was never about weight. It was never going to fix it.
How long?
And I wish I would have realized.
Yeah. How long did you spend not realizing that and fighting that battle, not realizing that you were fighting against yourself?
Oh, probably 6 or 7 years, because it started in 2015. And then I did lose a ton of weight. Then I had my third baby in 2018. And then things kind of calmed down for a little bit, and then my ear started pulsing like crazy. And I thought, oh, I haven't lost the baby weight. Like, that's why my body's mad. And man, I just wish I could give that girl a hug too. Like, all women that are like fighting to lose this baby weight. No. Yeah. I mean, there is a line, right? We want to take care of our bodies, but man, it's all right because our bodies grew humans. I mean, that's incredible. And we need to remember that. And then, and that's about the timing, I have my baby, I'm a couple years out, COVID hits. Then right after that, my ears are just going nuts. My body's blowing up. And that's when actually I started working with, he's on Instagram. His name is @FitnessDane, Dane Anderson. And I was so lucky. He's now moved to Florida, but he was local for me, and he owned a nutrition shop. And I went in and he just looked at me, and I told him, I said, I'm working with another coach, blah, blah, blah. Here's all the things I'm doing. And we joked that he bit his tongue so hard it was bleeding, because he's like, oh my gosh, this isn't working, and finally I was like, Dane, what? Like, tell me what you think. And he's like, you're never going to heal. It's not a weight problem. Oh. It's a gut problem. It's a slow down problem. It's a stress problem. Like, we've got to address all of those things first. And when I started with him, I got my blood work done. I was right on the verge of a heart attack. I had all these crazy things going on, even though I thought I was being healthy, right? I'm pushing the chicken and the protein, no carbs, lifting heavy. I was not in the right spot. So it took a long time for me to cue into that. And it really just kind of took a kick in the pants from Dane to say, you're on the wrong track. And then when we started working together, things got significantly better, but I still battle pulsing to this day.
Oh, so with him working with you, did he identify that the stress was work related, or did you have to figure that out?
He's pretty involved. When he coaches you, he gotta knows the whole story. And so he said, I know you love your job, and I think that's amazing, but I also think we've got to figure out how to reduce the stress. And if that means stepping away from your job, if that means you've got to put up some different boundaries. Unfortunately, I wasn't yet in a place to put up those boundaries, because I still saw, being productive as well. Yeah. And so trying to pull those two apart, it didn't even sound like something I could be not capable of.
Yeah. How did he figure it out? Like, what were the questions that he asked, or how did he determine your job is stressful and that is a problem?
It was actually all the signs in my body. And so we would work through, he has you kind of fill out an evaluation, and I would check in with him every week. And we would talk about what's going on in the week, what's up, what's going on. And it all just kept coming back to, I'm carrying this super heavy load. I'm carrying this heavy load. And we tried to work around it, tried several different things, and it just, nothing changed until I made a change. And then, so I went from that job as VP of Finance and absolutely working my dream job, amazing. And then I went over and I became a CFO for a CPA firm. They have a bunch of sister companies. It's called Integrated. Amazing team, absolutely loved that. But I thought it got me working from home. So I was like, okay, maybe that will reduce the stress enough. Maybe that will be enough. And it just still wasn't, because I had not yet decoupled those two things, like I've said. And so I finally left that job in December of 2024, knowing that I needed to take a step back and decouple those pieces, or else I was just going to keep getting more and more sick. I'd have times when I'd be okay, but there were times when I was over the edge, and I knew it. And I wasn't showing up for my kids, myself, my family, my husband like I needed to. Mm-hmm. And so it was just a really weird time, though.
How scary was it to walk away from that job in December?
Oh my gosh. So it was really scary. We were also dealing with some mental health stuff with my kids.
How old are your kids?
Being a mom now.
How old are your kids?
I've got 12, 10, and 7. And being a mama, I knew that that my children needed all of me, and they were getting none of me, because I was just like a husk of a person. See, it's bringing tears to my eyes. I wasn't myself. No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And I was still really sick, and I didn't realize how sick I was. Because again, I was like working this job that I was so excited for. My husband stayed at home with the kids at that time. He was incredible letting me pursue my career. Um, but he didn't deal with some of that mental health stuff like I did. I'd had some of those inclinations growing up as well, and so it was more on me to deal with that kind of situation with my kids. And
What was going on?
with that,
What was
sorry,
going on?
um, suicidal ideation.
Oh, okay. And that is terrifying as a parent. Terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it in attempts.
Uh-huh. And your husband, so because he hadn't lived it himself, he probably felt like, how do I help this? Whereas you felt like, I've been there, I know what it feels like. I can probably help them through this better. But I have to be here to do that.
Yes, I have to be present, and I still wasn't where I needed to be. I mean, I dealt with some of that as recently as, even working with Dane, like I was so sick. I remember sitting in my office and being like, I can't do this another day. I couldn't lift my head up off the table. My husband was force feeding me, and I didn't want to continue. And I worry that that's what my kids saw, and they needed to see mom have a comeback. And so we made that decision, and luckily, because of how I manage our money, we had the ability to leave. Because we left our job. Like, my husband wasn't working at the time. I still was coaching women on the side and doing some fractional CFO work. Fortunately, I have a lot of connections that were referring to me. But we left. I had paid off. I had always known I wanted our house paid off just for security. And so I had paid off our house a few years before leaving that job. And that's been really fortunate. It's a nice home. We can stay here. And that gave me some flexibility in addition to our savings. And I took a breather for a minute, but I knew that I really wanted to dive in and help women with money. And so this gave me the time to kind of ramp that up. Still working on that. But it's given me that opportunity, and I get to be more present for my kids.
Did you see yourself being entrepreneurial as far as running your own business a long time ago, or is that something that you just recently saw yourself doing full time?
I always wanted to do it, which is part of the reason I got my master's. Like, I love the strategy. I love all of that. And so I always wanted to do it. I just never really knew where I fit. And then it became very, very obvious very quickly that I needed to be helping women with their money. It's like almost like as soon as I stepped away from corporate, I had women like coming out of the, what do you say? Just coming and asking for help. And I was like, this is my sign. I was doing it quietly before. And then I thought, wow, because I've been on the phone with women and seen the changes in their lives. I mean, money is it's integrated in everything. And when we have that support system rather than that stress, changes everything.
Well, knowing that you know how to solve that problem for women, that probably lights you up, realizing I can actually serve a major purpose in women's lives in a very meaningful way. And not that corporate isn't important and corporate bottom lines are important, but when you can help a woman have more confidence with her finances, I'm guessing that's a lot more fulfilling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and for example, most recently I was on a phone with a woman, and before I coach someone, I have them fill out just a brief little questionnaire so I can get to know them a little bit better. And just the energy coming through her questions or her answers just kind of shook me. And we get on the phone and I was like, I just need you to know, like, you're caring so much. You are absolutely incredible. And she just broke down and started sobbing. And I was like, someone needs to tell you that. Like, I can just feel that. And just even that, she and I have grown so close because now she knows that she's seen. And so it's not just money. It's making that connection. And I feel like women are doing so much, and we're underserved in so many different areas because we're asked, right before we got on the phone call, we were talking about our kids and our dogs and what's going on at home. And we're asked to carry all of this without a lot of tools sometimes.
So, yeah. As far as the coaching business, for the woman that's listening, I feel there's 1,000 ways that you can coach somebody through a problem that you've experienced and solved. Like you have learned to manage money in a creative way that feels freeing for and gives women the feeling of having control over their finances without feeling restricted, which I love. I'm like, sign me up. That sounds awesome. But I think it's interesting when you look at how can you make a difference in the world. Where I really believe there's a lot of us that know we're meant to do a lot of things. We're meant to do something impactful. And yet we overcomplicate what that looks like for us. We see other people doing things that are impactful. And so we think, oh, we need to fit into that box and we need to do it the way they're doing it. And at the end of the day, it's like the way that you're meant to show up in the world and impact women or people, it's like right under your nose. It's the thing you're most passionate about. It's the thing that probably tugs on your heart the most, or the thing that you've experienced the most heartache over, right? And that process of realizing that you have enough in you to make that difference, to become a coach and coach women, like speak to that process of understanding and accepting and owning your worth, that you have enough to make a difference, to charge and to start a business that way.
It happened slowly. Like I said, I was coaching women quietly on the side, and I was seeing differences.
And not charging?
I'd have
or charging?
Not charging for a long time, because it was just like, I'm good at this, you're good at something else, we'll help each other, or whatever it was. I just saw the change it could make for women. And as I would have conversations with women, just casual, and hear the stress, and I'm like, oh, the antenna would go up. I can solve that. You're awesome. You don't need to be worrying about this. Like, let's put that on on auto drive over here, so you can focus on something else. And like I said, it was like all these women coming out of the woodwork, and it was just one thing after another, to the point where I was like, I cannot ignore this anymore. And describing that tug on your heart, absolutely. Money makes sense to me. It comes easily to me. And so to me, that means that I'm supposed to be sharing that skill set, because there's other people, that are incredible at other things, and I need them to share. And so that's how it kind of developed. It was a slow thing. It's kind of like, I knew I needed to be helping. I didn't know, and as I was coaching women, I was like, okay, how can I share my message more? So then I created digital courses with my method. We're actually launching here soon. But anyway, I created the digital courses too, because I was like, not everyone can pay the fees for one-on-one coaching, and I want to help. How do we help with a low barrier to entry? How do we get these women feeling better? And so it just was one thing after another till here we are. And I'm so grateful.
Yeah. How does it compare? When you say you thought you were living the dream before, how is it actually different that now you feel like you really are living the dream?
Well, I was building someone else's dream before, and I didn't realize it, right? And I still am passionate and love supporting businesses with their finances. But I wasn't ever building something for myself, or something that fit around my family. Like I mentioned, I worked in corporate from the time my son was 4 months old. I was never home with my kids. I worked long hours, and even when I wasn't at work, I was in a high management position a lot of times, and so the brain never shut off. Yeah. And so I thought that looked like success. It did on paper. But now success feels like, I got up and worked for a few hours this morning, and then I got to do breakfast with my kids. And then I worked for a little bit, and then we set up this, I call it our trashy pool. We've got this blow up pool out, killing the grass. My husband's dying, but my kids are out doing that, and I got to set it up with them. And all it did was take 20 minutes. And just, that's what success feels like to me now, is that I get to carve out those little pockets of time to be present for my kids. And I see, I don't want to take all the credit, but I do see a change in their demeanor, a change in their mental health, because I'm more present, because they're getting access to me. And I undervalued that for a long time. So success just feels different, even though I thought I was successful before.
Yeah. How much do you feel that they are more comforted by the the energy that they feel coming from you, not just the presence, but they feel you at peace.
It's 180 degrees different.
Yeah.
They watched me. My kids are very empathetic. They're, oh gosh, I'm just very lucky. They're so amazing. And so, as I would be stressed and things like that from corporate, they would try to like comfort me or, oh, sorry, you're working again, mom, or whatever. You know, they were so cute that way. But now it's like they will come tell me about things, or, you know, they want me to be a part of things. And it's just so different. Their behavior's different. I feel like they're feeling more seen. My husband was an incredible stay-at-home dad, and I would never in a million years take away from that. But there's just, you know, different personalities and being seen in different ways. So now they've got that incredible relationship with their dad that a lot of kids don't get, because it is a lot of times, you know, they're the dad that's working or both parents. And now they've had that time with him, and now I get to have this time. And I just feel like it is giving them the opportunity to see both sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm. Someone told me a long time ago that everyone thinks that you need to be home with your kids when they're little. And a lot of women plan to be home with them until they go to school. And then when they go to school, I'll go back to work. Kids need us after school in middle school and high school. The moment they get out of school, far more than they need us when they're 18 months old. I'm an advocate for being home. I've been home with my kids their whole lives. But it's when they deal with hard things and they don't know how to process those things that they need you right there, right then. 2 hours later, 3 hours later, 4 hours later, they've processed it, they've shoved it down, and they're not going to talk to you about it. And I've just never forgotten that. And that is one priority for me, that I will always be available to pick up my kids or be home as soon as they get out of school, because that's when they're going to need me the most.
I absolutely agree. And we can give them tools, right? Like when you said they shove it down, instead, we can give them tools to process that. And that's why it's so important that like we do the work that we need to do to be where, you know, in a good place to offer those tools and offer that insight. And so I absolutely agree. And those were kind of some of the conversations when I said they'll just tell me things. Those are the conversations I'm referring to. I mean, you're right. It comes up in the quiet minutes, not when you think it makes sense. It just comes up, you know, they'll come up, I'll be doing the dishes or something boring, and they come up and, hey, mom, I got to tell you about this with my friend. And it's just because I was there. And I'm just so grateful to just be there and be able to be receptive and be able to, you know, like you said, support them.
And how amazing that you're already seeing that difference in 6 months. You've been home full time like this, working from home for 6 months, and you already see that difference. It's not like it's because they're older.
It's absolutely the change in the home and me being more available and doing the work myself. I think that's really important. You know, I've done a lot of therapy to try to offload that stress. I worked with an energy healer. She was incredible. All of these things. And now I share those tools with my kids because I had to figure out how to be whole for them. And now they're seeing that. And they saw me fight. I'm going to fight for him. I fought for him because, see, I'm screwing up again, but I didn't before. When I was in corporate, I could barely keep my head above water. And now I get to fight for them, and they get to see me do that for them.
So. When you say fight, you mean advocate.
Yes. And kind of fix myself, like do the work on myself, because this work on myself then serves them. And I talked to him about that. Like, yep. Mom's still working on decoupling those things. How did I get here? How do we make sure you don't get there? You know, because we live in a world where the production is tied to your worth so tightly. And so it's like, how do I help them still be productive and all those things without tying their worth to it? And it's been an interesting go to teach them those things because I've had to learn it myself. But yeah, it's been a huge.
But you can't teach your children something that you don't know. So we have to learn these things to be able to empower our children to not go down the same path or have the same experiences. When you first started charging, was that a hard thing to do for you for coaching?
No, because I have had women that I've helped, you know, my friend was a photographer. Another friend taught dance, those kinds of things, and they struggled to charge. And coming from accounting, I was always like, no. You have to charge. This is your skill set. You are sharing it. You need to charge. And also, I think the party benefiting from your skill set, it has more, I don't know if the word skin in the game type of a thing. They just put more value on it. And so no, I didn't feel bad about charging. I knew that the work I was doing was going to change their lives. I felt confident in that. And I'm a big advocate of women charging. You need to charge. You need, we always want to serve, and that's great, but it still is pulling on our resources. And so it's having that balance.
Well, that's rooted in a different identity issue, which is the helper identity of I should serve, I should give, I should this on the other, and I shouldn't charge. And that's a different identity uncoupling that has to happen than having your worth tied to how much you produce. But yes, I so agree. There's so many women that are undervaluing themselves and don't realize that it's not just that, it's also that the transformation does happen in the transaction. And that's the same thing as skin in the game. People are not going to make the changes that they need to make if they're not invested.
They've got to put some energy into it, and money is energy.
Well, that's probably the basis of what you teach. As far as energy flow, what are your thought processes on money in general? Money is constantly moving, and the more that you cling to it, the less that you'll have.
Yes, I agree. That you're talking about a scarcity type of a mindset, right? That we're clinging with white knuckles. And so what I teach, the difference is we're not doing it. And I appreciate Dave Ramsey. I was a Dave Ramsey girl for a long time, but I've kind of gone away from that because he wants you to track every cent and stress about everything. And we're over here balancing kids and lives and all these things. And there's just not time for that. And so what I teach is mapping your money forward so it can hold you, so it holds joy, so it holds your bills, so you can plan ahead. And to me, that's like the flow that you're talking about. It just lends you confidence, and you're not micromanaging, because I feel like also when people are tracking really tight and they're super worried, they're just documenting chaos. And so we've got to map forward and say, what's my goal? Where am I headed? Some people are working to pay off a credit card. Some people are working to save. Some people just need to keep their head above water so they can go to Costco. Whatever it is, what's my goal? And then they start and they map their money forward. And what that means is they look at their income, their expenses are one-off expenses. We put all this together in this beautiful map, and it says, hey, you've got money out through December. Like we count on these, paychecks or whatever else. We can't, if we stick to this, you've got money out, whatever. I like to map people out about a year. And so that all of a sudden their nervous system goes like this. And they're like, oh, okay, I'm being held. I'm not doing mental math anymore. I'm not stressing when my credit card statement comes, because I already know that if I stick to this plan, not down to the very cent, that's not what we're doing. But if I stick pretty close to I like to identify a variable spending target. And if we stick to that, I'm held and I don't have to worry about it. That's why I say it's on autopilot. We're not dealing with that anymore. We've done it. We touch it 15 minutes a week. And we move on and live our lives, because we're doing a million other amazing things, and money is meant to support us, not drain us.
What I'm hearing is that you look at the whole year, if you look at a budget and you understand that you're always going to have enough. What I have witnessed is in other people, really the scarcity, like, what if we run out? And it's almost like, have you ever ran out before? Maybe people have, but have you ever actually ran out before? Or have you always figured it out one way or another? And having a plan is definitely part of it, but it's also recognizing that you're fearing something that's not real.
Yes, I love what you're saying. And I actually, little secret, at the first of my programs, I like to do some of that mindset work, because if we don't do that mindset work, we're still always going to, like you said, live in that scarcity and just stress and just hold on. And when I work with women, I've seen that. Like I have some women that like, they'll just keep coming back to me, but I got to worry. And I'm like, okay, but look, it's worked out till now.
Yeah.
We've got this figured out. We have a plan. We've done the work around the mindset. Remember when we did that? Yeah. Okay. I know that you're falling back into old patterns, and we're working on breaking those. And so it's just right? Like we're trying to build that confidence. And like you said, like, yes, looking backwards and saying, look, it worked out every other time. You're still here. It's working. And so we do some of that mindset work because I don't think that you can separate the two. I'm not a big fan of just like diving into the tactical tools because without dealing with this incredible brain that we have and managing that mindset, we're not going to be able to accept the ease that can come.
Yeah, how much of it is learning to actually trust yourself?
I mean, I feel like so much of it. That's so important, right? And that's basically what the money map does, is it lets you trust yourself. One of the things I have in there is just a forward-looking graph, and you can just see your money carrying you. You can see, do I have some tight seasons? Okay. Well, and you can look out over a year and you can go, okay, I have a tight season. I figured it out every other time. I've already done that mindset work. Now I can plan ahead, because I tell people to really drill down on their 90 days, but we're out 12 months. So we can see those tight seasons and we can deal with them proactively, not reactively, not sweat it out when when money is tight and we're stressed or we want to take our family on vacation and we can't do it. No, we do that work well ahead so that we are building up that confidence and that muscle that goes, I got this. Like, I am so amazing. That's what I want people to walk away with, is I'm so amazing and I can have so much peace and confidence in my money. It just supports me.
Which is such an amazing feeling. And how amazing to be able to give that to women that would not have access to that feeling without your guidance and coaching and your program.
Yeah, it is really special. But like you have said, it's like more than money work often. It's usually a lot more than that. A lot of mindset type stuff to allow the ease in and then build that confidence. And it's just, it's so incredible to watch the change in women. In fact, I actually had a client recently who she Marco Polo'd me, and she's like, oh my gosh, I have done nothing different and I lost weight this week because I'm not holding that stress anymore. And I'm like, oh, it's a weight loss plan too. We didn't even know. Just because our bodies can relax, our nervous system calms down when we know we're being helped.
Now, how much has the program changed since you've learned so much about the identity work versus what you've known about money since you were in college?
Well, so the coaching has changed. The program, I only really dotted my I's, crossed my T's in the last couple of months. And that's when I was doing a lot of that work. So the coaching work has changed because it is more mindset focused. I used to think that was all, at being a type A hustler, I thought, oh, that's all fluff, until that fluff hit me right in the face and reminded me that it is indeed not fluff. You can't just do the tactical. You've got to have both. We're one whole holistic being. We have to have both.
Yeah. So what was your first introduction to mindset work outside of obviously going to therapy, because they're not the same, but how were you introduced to mindset work?
Well, it was me exploring how to heal. A lot of work around that and kind of refusing it at first. Trying to heal my body, but I mean, it was desperation. Like I said, like the pulsatile tinnitus, being yanked awake every couple of hours, that creates some real desperation. And it's like, I'm willing to look anywhere for a tool. And so I did some work. It's called Vital Side. And they talk about rewiring your brain and some things like that. And I learned a lot about that, and then just kept diving deeper and deeper and realized the power that mindset work really has if we'll give it the space it needs to work. It's not an overnight thing, and it's hard. And that's why a lot of people don't do it.
It takes a lot of practice. It's not something you master once you learn about it. You learn about it, and then you have to learn how to implement the things that you've learned in practice.
And even then, it's a little messy. And you get a little better every day.
Our subconscious mind is running the show so much of the time, and those patterns and those beliefs and those identities that we're tied to because of something that was said or something that we experienced. And that all of that is running the show so much more of the time than any of us realize until you really dig in.
I completely agree. In fact, in my core program, I talk about how it's your blueprint, right? It's like the operating system. I go like this. It's the operating system back here, and it's pulling all the levers without you even realizing. And it's those habit triggers or the experiences, because, right, our brain is meant to help us survive. And so it's created habits to get us places quicker. It's created, all these safety mechanisms, and we have to go in and evaluate, are those still serving us? And sometimes we're not, and we thank them and we let them go, and we have to work on letting them go because they're pulling the wrong levers now. Kind of reminds me of like, is it Inside Outside? That movie? You know what I'm talking about? With all little characters in that. And my kids were just watching it. And they're just in there pulling all the levers. And I'm like, we got to make sure that those align with our goals.
Yeah.
Because maybe as a kid, I felt like, certain things, there were certain safety mechanisms I needed to have. But now as an adult, I have more control in that. And can I act differently? Can I not let those habits make me, misalign with my goals? Yeah, I can. I can do that work. It's hard, but I can do it.
What would you say to the woman listening that is in a job or doing something that isn't fulfilling? How would you encourage her to make a change or make a shift?
First, I would never react. I would do a lot of work around slowing down and evaluating what I really want my life to look like. We had talked about what does success look like and how does it look different now. And, I was talking to my brother. He's really, really wise. And we were talking about, what do I really want? And he's like, specifically, what do you really want? And I think for a woman that's working in an unfulfilling job or struggling, whatever, really identifying what she wants and aligning everything. I mean, it's kind of like manifesting, aligning everything to that. And even if that means slowing down and taking some time and just allowing yourself to feel some of the ickies for a minute while you work through that messy middle, because the other side is just so incredible. And I think also, like we had said, drawing on our conversation of you've survived it before, you're going to do it again. And we are just so incredible. We have so much to offer, and someone putting us in a box in a job that's not serving us or a situation that's not serving us, we can change that. And money does help change that, right? We've talked about that. Money does give you some of that flexibility, but also the mindset and things like that, doing all of that work and identifying really what you want.
Absolutely. What is one thing that you wish people knew about you?
I love big, and when someone gets in my orbit, I'm almost like, I can almost be a lot for them because I just love people and I just want to take care of them and I just want to make their lives easier. And so I sometimes can love really big, and that can be tough for some people, but I don't know. I don't have a lot of things that I hide, so I don't really have anything that I'd say, oh, I wish they knew that about me, because I'm an open book.
Where can people find you if they want to work with you?
I'm at MichonCovington.com, and spell that right. But hopefully, I'll give you links and things like that, and you can share that. But I'm at MichonCovington.com. I'd love for you to come over and check things out. It's important to me that women feel supported, and whether it's me or someone else helping you with your money, you deserve it. You deserve to have that joy, and you deserve to have that stress release. And I want that for you.
That's amazing. Well, thank you. I've loved this conversation. I know it's going to serve a lot of women, and I am grateful for your time. Michon reminded us that financial confidence isn't about perfection or penny pinching. It's about creating systems that support your real life, letting go of the pressure to prove, and stepping into alignment with what actually matters. Whether you're in the messy middle or on the edge of a major transition, I hope this episode gave you permission to pause, reflect, and consider something new. So I'll leave you with this question. What would be possible if you trusted yourself with money, your health, and your happiness? If Michon's story resonated with you, be sure to connect with her and explore her programs. And if you love this episode, share it with a woman who needs to hear it too. Your story, your wellness, and your peace matter. Keep going.